Imagine if Barry Weiss offered 10% of the defense. She gives white supremacy to all the anti-fascist, Jewish allied, black and brown women of color she has made a career putting in danger. New York Times staff of color felt so unsafe around her that she had to resign. Now, I don't know who this Raff guy is, but I do know that that is a pretty gross mistelling of history based on nothing more than Barry Weiss's own letter of resignation from the New York Times that she posted publicly on her website several months ago, where she said the paper of record is more and more the record of those living in a distant galaxy, one of whose concerns are profoundly removed from the lives of most people. This is a galaxy in which, to choose just a few recent examples, the Soviet space program is lauded for its diversity, the doxing of teenagers in the name of justice is condoned, and the worst caste system in human history includes the United States alongside Nazi Germany. Even now, I am confident the most of people at the Times do not hold these views, yet they are cowed by those who do. Why? Perhaps because they believe the ultimate goal is righteous. Perhaps because they believe they would be granted protection if they nod along with the coin of our realm. Language is degraded in service of an ever-shifting laundry list of right causes. Perhaps because there are millions of unemployed people in the country, they feel lucky to have a job in a contracting industry. Or perhaps it is because they know that nowadays standing up for principle at the paper does not win plaudits. It puts a target on your back. Too wise to post on Slack, they write me privately about the new McCarthyism that has taken root at the paper of record. But Raff wants to turn this into the New York Times staff feel unsafe. And listen, the idea of feeling unsafe in your place of employment is, I've talked a lot about psychological safety on this channel. Psychological safety is the number one driver of a successful organization and successful teamwork and collaboration within that organization, because psychological safety is trust. Do you feel like your coworkers are going to have your back? Are they going to stick up for you? Are you going to help each other out? Are you going to pick each other up when someone fumbles and has a little failure? Or are you constantly at each other's throats? And what we saw with Barry Weiss's resignation letter way back in the day was they don't have any psychological safety at the New York Times. And what Raff, regardless of whether he intended to or not, is confirming that if staff of color feel so unsafe around someone that they disagree with, guess what? The fault lies on the New York Times for not providing an environment in which people feel safe to come to work and do their jobs. That is the fault of the leadership at the New York Times and no one else's. And of course, this is now being confirmed by the New York Post. Half of New York Times employees feel they can't speak freely in a recent survey. And guys, the results of this survey are a little mind-blowing. I'm going to explain more as we read this article. But before we get into that, listen, if you like the content I'm producing, I do content almost every single day of the week, except sometimes take the weekends off, around news, politics, culture, really anything I find interesting. I would love it if you would follow along by subscribing to the channel, or if you want to do me one better, you can follow along on Rokfin, which is a new platform that I have just joined as of yesterday. I'm really excited about it. Now listen, if you're watching this on YouTube, I ain't going anywhere. You're still going to get the same content. I'm simply going to be putting all of the videos I have on YouTube also on Rokfin, because to be honest, YouTube hates their creators and I don't see this as a viable long-term solution. So I got to start building up other platforms, man, because that's the way it goes. Now, in addition to all of the content that I do on YouTube, I am also going to be doing Rokfin exclusive content. So if you want to check it out, join a place that does not censor their creators. I have all the information in a pinned comment right below this video, and you can go and check that out. And when you join Rokfin, you're also going to find a lot of other awesome creators. You're going to find lefties like Jimmy Dore, Nico House. You're also going to find people like Wayne Dupree. You're going to find Mike Cernovich. Scott Adams is on there. So Jesse Lee Peterson's on there. Lots of really amazing creators. And again, I'm going to be able to say things on Rokfin in the exclusive content that I'm going to be posting on there that I cannot say on YouTube because of reasons. So I hope you'll join me over there. All right, Let's take a look at this article. Half of New York Times employees feel they can't speak freely. Around half of New York Times employees said in a recent internal survey that they don't believe they can speak freely at the paper. In response to the statement, there is a free exchange of views in this company. People are not afraid to say what they really think. Only 51% of Times employees responded in the affirmative. I want to talk about that for a second here. I'm even going to highlight that. We're going to put that in purple for a second, because these are surveys that I used to do an awful lot of. I would do employee engagement surveys with a lot of my clients. And listen, spoiler alert, employee engagement surveys aren't rocket science. A lot of places that do these surveys, they kind of copy what everyone else is doing. There's industry standards for it. Anyway, I tell you this because I used to ask questions. I had a very specific question on the survey I was running that was this. It was pretty much exactly this question. And I'll tell you what, to get only 51% of employees answering in the affirmative is an abysmally low number. Abysmally low. Usually the lowest I would see on a question like that on a really shoddily run organization where employees were not happy would be maybe 60 to 70%, because here's the thing about employee engagement surveys. Even when they're conducted by an external third party, even when they're completely anonymous, employees still don't feel comfortable telling the truth because they think their identity is being tracked. They think it's going to get back to their boss. It's a constant problem with doing this type of data collection. But to only have 51% of employees at the New York Times say there is a free exchange of views in this company, people are not afraid to say what they really think, that is an abysmally low number, and it says a lot about the lack of psychological safety at the New York Times. It also says a lot about the lack of team resiliency, and not to mention individual resiliency for that matter. Like, if people of color are really afraid of Barry Weiss, that is a lack of internal resiliency, I'll tell you what. Let's keep going and see what else it said. In company comments, the December polls findings, which were viewed by the Post, the 51% noted as being 10% lower than the benchmark. Told you. One insider said the benchmark likely refers to the average among similar companies surveyed on that statement. Well, I doubt we're talking about media companies if they're including that in a benchmark. I mean, maybe it depends on what survey they used, but I strongly doubt that whatever survey they used had enough of a critical mass of media companies that are similar enough to the New York Times for that to be the benchmark. I'm going to say it's probably a more broader benchmark than that, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Although the majority of us feel well-informed, many indicated that differing viewpoints aren't sought or valued in our work. Read the Times internal assessment of the data. Relatedly, we saw some negative responses on whether there's a free exchange of views in the company and scored below the benchmark on this question. A total of 74% of Times staffers said leaders and colleagues accept and embrace differences in ethnicity and race. A 10% decline from the same results, or from the same survey in 2019. So the New York Times is so woke that their staff actually feel less comfortable with their acceptance of different races and ethnicities. 10% less comfortable, to be exact, from the same survey in 2019. This is just like, this is karma, is what this is. So this is karma right here. We saw steep declines in answers about leaders and colleagues accepting and embracing differences in race, gender, identity, and religion. Responses from Black and Latino colleagues declined at an even greater rate. Could it be that they have people convincing them that they don't work in a safe working environment? I think so. The survey results were revealed to the Post as the former paper of record is embroiled in a seemingly endless parade of scandals. Most recently, a decision to oust veteran science reporter Donald McNeil over his non-derogatory use of a slur during a Times-sponsored trip when students had divided the newsroom. A column from their in-house conservative columnist, Bret Stephens, criticizing the McNeil dismissal was personally spiked by the publisher and ended up being published in the New York Post. In June, the New York Times suffered another woke revolt after the paper's opinion section published an op-ed from Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton urging that federal soldiers be sent to the U.S. cities to quell Antifa and BLM violence during the summer. Dozens of employees publicly protested the piece's publication, saying it put Black New York Times staff in danger. The fallout led to the resignation of op-ed editor James Bennett. Other leading opinion staffers, including Barry Weiss, left in the months after Bennett's departure. The Times did not respond to multiple requests. There was a group of younger reporters and a fair number of tech people and people on the audio side who do not come out of the tradition of journalism at the Times. They see their role to be more active, says Alex. I don't know how to pronounce Alex's last name, sorry. A former New York Times business reporter told the Post. There's a lot of anguish among older people about younger woke staff, he added. Listen, I'm going to tell you straight up, this is an issue of leadership. This is an issue of leadership at the New York Times that is creating this environment in which the inmates are running the asylum. That's exactly what this is, and you know what? You dug your hole, New York Times. This is what it is. Congratulations. I mean, you really have one of two choices. Are you going to piss off your half of your staff by doing the things you need to do to start creating a more psychologically safe work environment, or are you going to continue the slippery slide of decline that you are already in? I'm going to bet they're going to do the latter, because the former would be really, really difficult and would fundamentally change the entire makeup of the paper, and they'd have to fire Nicole Hannah-Jones if they were going to go with the more sensible option that would provide a viable future for the company. And I think all signs point to the fact that they're just not inclined to do it. So let's just enjoy it, guys. Let's enjoy the decline of the New York Times, because it's going to happen right in front of us. They're on the slippery slope now, man. They've already started down the hill, and trust me, this is not a problem that is easy to turn around with your staff. This is going to become more Lord of the Flies, and I'm just going to sit back with my popcorn and watch the whole thing happen. All right, guys, again, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. I also hope you'll consider joining me over on Rockfin. If Rockfin's not your jam, I'm on Locals, I'm on Odyssey. We need to start getting off YouTube as our primary platform, because it's just, guys, they keep screwing with people. They keep changing their algorithm. Like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not, I promise, but I am going to be making moves to build up my platform in other areas so that when the time does inevitably come, as it will for all of us, I will already be ready to go, and I hope you'll be there with me. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.